Good afternoon, game theorists. Today we are in chapter 16, looking at auctions. And this episode is going to be about what's called an all-pay auction. So the way an all-pay auction works is that you pay your bid whether or not you win. So everyone, winner and losers, pays their bid. That's why it's called all-pay. I'm not really aware of any examples that are literally like this, but it's good for modeling competitions. So, for example, back before that big shutdown, there were sports competitions and sporting events. You might view the effort that teams put into training as being like their bid. So, before a football game, both teams have been training for years and years, going to the gym, going to practices, etc., etc. They put in a lot of effort, and if you lose the big game, you don't get a refund on all that effort. You don't get a refund on your gym membership. You don't get back all those hours of training you put in if your team loses. So you paid your effort, win or lose. So here's how I can put it in terms of our notation. So pi is your payoff. If you win, you get the object which you value at v, like we said earlier with our notation, and you pay your bid b. Now, we said you still pay your bid even if you lose, so if you lose, your payoff is minus b. So how do we handle ties? We typically model that as you split the object and then you still pay your bid. So more generally, if we have an n-way tie, where n is the number of people who are tying, so you get the object split n ways and you still pay your bid. The losers, of course, still get minus b. So we can study the situation, this model for a competition, using game theory. So our big tool in game theory is, of course, what is the Nash equilibrium? So one possibility is that maybe everyone bids V. So one quick comment first I got to insert here. Your book treats it as everyone having the same value, the same V, across all bidders. We'll start with that because that's simpler. Last time I taught this class, a lot of my students were very curious about what happens if the bidders have different valuations. Maybe one team cares more about winning than the other team does. So we'll talk about that one shortly, but we'll start with the simple case first. So everyone thinks the object's worth the exact same thing. They both care equally about winning, or everyone involved cares equally about winning. So if we all care equally about winning, all make the same bid of V, could that be a Nash equilibrium? Go ahead and pause the video here and think about that. And we think you figured it out, press play. So it turns out that this is not a Nash equilibrium. Why is that? Well, let's look at everyone's payoff in this situation. So you split the object n ways if you have an n-way tie. So yeah, it's like say a three-way tie be V over 3. If you had 4 players tie it'd be V over 4, etc. But everyone's bidding V. That means that B equals V, so V minus n, V over n minus B becomes V over n minus V, which is going to be negative. So say the value was 10, and you have 5 people bidding for it, then you get 10 over 5, which is 2, minus 10, that's negative. So why is that bad? Well, you can always guarantee yourself a payoff of at least 0 by bidding 0. So here's how I can see the logic there. So if I bid 0, I know I'm not going to win. So I know I'm going to be a loser in this auction. But at least I don't pay anything in that case. Minus 0 is still 0, so I know for sure I get 0 by bidding 0. So if this strategy here, bidding V, gets me a negative payoff, but this one here gets me a 0 payoff, I'm going to go for this one. I'm not going to follow this idea of everyone bidding V, so that's not going to work. Remember, Nash equilibrium means that no single player can gain by debidding. We just established that players can gain by switching strategies, so that rules out that case. So what's another possibility? Well, perhaps everyone could bid 0. Is that a Nash equilibrium? So go ahead and pause the video here. Think about that question. Once you think you have an answer, press play and we'll see what the answer is. All right, I assumed you have thought about it by now. It turns out that this is also not a Nash equilibrium. So as always, to be a Nash equilibrium, it has to be impossible to change strategies and benefit from that. So it shows it's not a Nash equilibrium. I have to show that it's possible to do something different and get a better payoff. Well, if everyone else is bidding 0 and you bid just a little bit above 0, you bid like 0.001, then you're going to win the object, you're going to win the auction, and you pay almost nothing. So if our object's worth 50 and I'm bidding 1, then my payout's going to be 50 minus 1, which is 49. I can get away with that because everyone else is bidding 0. So that can't be a Nash equilibrium either. Now what if we have one person and they bid their value, but everyone else is bidding 0. Could that be a Nash equilibrium? So once again, pause the video here, think about that, and when you've got an answer, press play, and we'll see what happens. So this is also not a Nash equilibrium. Here's the reasoning. So it's true that people who are bidding 0 can't improve their outcome. If they're bidding 0, we know they get a payoff of 0. The only way we could change that is by trying to outbid this guy, which means bidding above V, but you don't want to bid above your valuation. So perhaps you thought that it would make this a Nash equilibrium that way, because these folks can't improve their payoff. However, the person who's bidding V, they can do better. They realize, if everybody else is bidding 0, I could bid a lot less and still win. So if the object is worth 50 and everybody else bids 0, I don't have to bid 50 to win that auction. I could bid just 0.1 and I'll still win. So I have an incentive to change strategies. Right, one more possibility to look at. So we have, let's say, n bidders. And everyone bids V over N. So could that be a Nash equilibrium? As usual, pause the video here, think about it. When you're ready, when you think you have an answer, then we'll go over it. All right, I assume you have worked it out by now. This is also not a Nash equilibrium. So somebody could bid a little bit above V over N and win the auction. It'll still be worthwhile. So here's a simple numerical example. I keep using V equals 50, so let's use that. And keep things very simple. Let's say there are just 5 bidders. So that means everyone bids 10, according to this proposed strategy. So if you start bidding 11, you're going to outbid everyone else, you'll win the auction, and you'll have a positive payoff. On the other hand, if you follow the plan of bidding 10, then you split the object 5 ways, you all get 10, but you all pay your bid, so your payoff would be 0 if you follow the plan. So deviating from the plan is profitable. So this also cannot be a Nash equilibrium. So perhaps you have realized a general conclusion by now. That conclusion is there is no pure strategy Nash equilibrium. There is, however, a mixed strategy Nash equilibrium, so the players will instead make bids at random. So in our next episode, we will go and solve for what is the mixed strategy Nash equilibrium. This is a very interesting result. We think about its implications. So I motivated the all pay auction by talking about competitions, like with a sporting event, you pay your effort to train whether or not you win. So what this implies, so you're trying to figure out, should our team have a practice on Wednesday? You should randomize because there's no pure strategy Nash equilibrium. So there should be some randomization involved in how much you train and how much you go to the gym. Something that you probably never really thought about from a traditional sports perspective. So be sure to join us in our next episode where we find the mixed strategy Nash equilibrium.